In 1967, extraterrestrial beings known as Beta began a war with mankind intending to eliminate humanity and take control over the world. From the day Beta landed on Earth, a great war between mankind and aliens started with Beta's only aim to eradicate humanity and mankind struggling to save the world and their extinction. In 1997, young girls Yui, Aki, Izumi, and Shumeko Kai of the Imperial Japanese Armed Forces Surface Pilot Training School get inspired to see Tactical Surface Fighter (TSF) machine Type 82 Zuikaku. They will get the chance to pilot TSF once they graduate. Yui's Royal Guard family lineage and her father's involvement in the Zuikaku's development made her more interested in piloting it one day and fighting like a real soldier. Till the fall of the same year, all Asian alliances will complete the absolute defense perimeter against Beta. After school, when Yui comes home, she gets to meet her father's friend and her dear uncle, Lieutenant Colonel Iwaya, who later informs her that they are struggling against Beta at the defense lines. The following day, Yui and her class get ready to pilot TSF for the first time for their practice exercise. The class teacher, Kozu, teaches students of the fighting tactics for their future battle with Beta. However, including Yui, the class performs awfully, but with continuous practice exercises, they begin to get a hold of TSFs. During the mock exercise, Yui wins the sword fight against one of her envious fellows named Kazusa. Kazusa begins developing a liking for her and after some time turns from her rival to friend. After a year in Korean Peninsula, Beta takes over the mainland and Japan comes into another big war against Beta. Beta heads toward the center of the mainland and meets the United Defense Line composed of Japanese Imperial, American, and UN forces. In Japan, many cities have been evacuated and even the trainees are summoned to Kyoto Arashiyama Temporary Supply Base to help the army in the war by protecting the base. As young girls have not yet completed the training, they are not sent to fight at the front base and are instructed to stay at the last base as a backup. While the girls are at the base, they learn that the Beta Vanguard has broken through and is heading towards them. Sensing the criticality of the situation, the girls enter TSS and take control to set for the battlefield since the last defense line now becomes the front line because of Beta's excessive invasion and the front line's destruction. The team leader instructs Yui to leave Flight 2 and annihilate the destroyer class. She also instructs Flight 3 to cover other Beta classes, specifically Laser class. Soon after reaching the battlefield, they come across a group of Beta. By remembering their training, Yui instructs the squad to fight the destroyer class Beta by firing its bottom body. Accepting the order, the girls take their TSFs at a high altitude and release several fires on Beta to ultimately destroy it. However, when they are about to celebrate their first victory in a real war, one of their fellows TSFs is attacked and destroyed by Laser class Beta. The team leader instructs them to keep their TSFs near the ground, as this way the Laser class won't be able to attack them. When Kazusa fixes a target to destroy Laser class and clear their way, she notices other fellows struggling with Beta and goes to assist them. However, no matter how many Betas they destroy, they keep coming and killing their fellows by attacking TSFs. After seeing such massive emergence of Beta, the squad leader worries as they were supposed to battle only a single group. She tries to communicate command posts, but no one responds, which means the front lines have already been destroyed and there are only left trainees to fight like a real soldier. Elsewhere, other defense lines also fight back against Beta, but are defeated. When the leader predicts they won't hold back against such a huge wave of Beta, she orders them to retreat to Line 8, and the squad follows her lead. On the way retreating, they keep on being attacked by Laser class Beta. Even on the leader's instruction, girls keep their TSS at a lower altitude. They are still fired by Laser class Beta because Laser class has already learned to widen its range of attack. At the end of the escape, only Yui, Izumi, and Kazusa are left alive. The rest of the squad, including the leader, have been attacked and killed by Laser class Beta. Their surviving girls are attacked again by another Beta group. When the girls fail to handle the fight and Yui's about to be killed by Beta, she gets saved by Type 94 MK, the class instructor Kozu, who approaches them by tracking their TSS. Kozu decides to cover them and fight with Beta during their escape, so they can reach Defense Line 8. After the team leader's death, Yui takes the lead move with Izumi and Kazusa, but to their dismay, Laser class Beta witnesses and attacks them. When Yui regains consciousness, she finds that her TSF is dead and her fellows has disappeared. Yui decides to find track of her friends and keeps moving. She finally comes across Izumi's necklace, but as she moves on, she gets shocked to see that Beta killed Izumi to eat her body. It makes her heart cry, cause being eaten by Beta was Izumi's largest fear. She tries to locate Kazusa in order to save her, but when she reaches Kazusa's TSF, she sees it surrounded by many Beta. Kazusa regains the connection with Yui and pledges to kill her before Beta eats her. Yui begins shooting toward Kazusa, but she does not gather the courage to kill her friend. Beta opens Kazusa's TSF, brings her out, tears her body brutally, and eats her. Her head falls near Yui. When Beta is about to eat Yui, she gets saved by another soldier's backup and is taken into the medical camp. She moans at her squad's brutal death and weeps her soul out. However, from that day on, Yui decides not to have another Beta attack, and also never to cry again. She learns Kyoto has fallen and they have faced defeat. 3 years later, Yui, now as the lieutenant of the Japanese Imperial Guard, heads to Alaska. Yuya, a U.S. test pilot, and Vincent, an engineer friend, relocate to Yukon, Alaska to take part in Project Prominence, an international test operation run by the UN with the purpose of evaluating and experimenting with new TSF technology. Yuya and Vincent are here to join the Argos test flight, which aims to create a brand new TSF for Japan. Turkish commander Ibrahim introduces Yui to the other members of Argos flight: test pilots Teresa of Nepal, Valerio of Italy, Stella of Sweden. Teresa rejects Yuya as the new leader of Argos flight because he has never engaged in combat as the other members have. To resolve the conflict, Yuya suggests a 2-on-2 TSF match between Teresa and Valerio, and him and Stella. In order to maintain fairness, he lets Teresa fly the advanced TSF. To defeat Valerio and Teresa, Yuya exploits his tactical brilliance and coordination with Stella, which leads Teresa to finally accept him. Later, Yuya runs into Yui and is upset to learn that she found his duel to be disappointing rather than spectacular. Even after continuous training, Yuya does not get a hold of TSF and is irritated about operating Japanese TSF because every time he pilots it, he finds it rigid and uneasy. After the training, Yuya encounters Yui and both come into another argument because of the differences in battle teaching. Moreover, Yui's comments about his Japanese origin irritates Yuya because of his hatred of Japanese people, causing the two to get increasingly enmeshed in conflict. When the remainder of Argos flight is ordered to fly a Japanese Zuikaku TSF in a computer-simulated battle against the Beta, Yuya struggles to get acquainted with the Zuikaku's controls and falls behind his more experienced teammates in combat. After the worst performance in a training fight, Yuya comes across another dispute with Yui and is scolded by her. When Yuya is upset about his performance and argues with Yui, he encounters Inya. Inya is a Soviet-Russian pilot from the IDAR test flight and one of the Scarlet Twins. Inya befriends Yuya and asks him to visit her stuffed animal Misha at the base's Soviet section. This puts Yuya in danger though, since Inya's co-pilot Kriska has Yuya detained because she thinks he is a Japanese spy. Just as Soviet interrogators are about to torture Yuya, Yui's order approaches them and they are forced to release Yuya. Back at the base, Yuya gets another reprimand from Yui about his previous fight because according to Yui, he can't compete against Beta in a real fight. She also instructs Yuya not to blame his machine every time he performs badly because in a real battle, he has to face worse conditions against Beta. Despite Kriska's warnings to stay away from Yuya, Inya still desires to be friends with him. Yui, still dissatisfied with Yui's performance as a Japanese TSF pilot, advises him to understand his machine and deal with it as his own body rather than trying to compel the TSF to do things his way. Despite Yui's dislike for Yui, Vincent advises him to listen to her words. As they go to their next location, Argos flight suddenly runs into Yui operating a Takemikazuchi TSF, and the two engage in combat. Yui, after easily defeating everyone, faces Yuya. Having now grasped what Yui had told him, Yuya is able to better control the Shiranui and disarm Yui. As his comrades applaud him, Yui seems pleased with Yui's accomplishments. The Argos flight and ITER flight crews fly to the West Indies to collect data during test flights in tropical climates, while relaxing at the resorts and taking part in a PR photo shoot to boost morale. The trip starts out well until Inya and Teresa almost get into a fight, at which point the resort commander suggests they settle their differences in a paddleboat race the following day. When Kriska and Yui work together, Kriska unexpectedly faints. Yuya swims over to assist them, but an unexpected storm forces the three to seek shelter in a cave on a nearby island. To Yui's surprise, when Yuya heads out of the cave to look at their boat, Kriska inquires her about Yui's relationship with her and why her little sister Inya is showing interest in Yuya. Yui advises Kriska to question Yuya directly because she is unable to explain why her partner Inya enjoys being around him. When Yui returns, he informs the ladies that the storm took their boat away. To find their present location on the island, Kriska and Yuya go out of the cave. When Kriska is about to faint again, Yuya catches her. Kriska confesses that her latest fainting spells are caused by her phobia of being close to the ocean. However, when Yui arrives, she is envious because she believes that Kriska and Yui are hugging. However, it makes her uncomfortable. Later, When they return to the cave, Kriska inquires why Yuya dislikes the Japanese label. Yuya explains to Kriska that it is because his Japanese father abandoned his American mother before he was born and never returned, which infuriated his maternal grandfather and led him to think the Japanese are filth and shouldn't be trusted. The three are finally rescued when Inya, Teresa, Valerio, and Stella discover them in their TSS. The commander of the resort makes Yui, Kriska, and Inya take part in a bikini photo session for the troops as punishment for bothering everyone, and the Argos crew bothers Yuya if anything happens between them. Project Prominence travels to the front lines of Kamchatka to acquire cold weather test flight data and their first real-world fighting data with the Beta. Meanwhile, Yui is under pressure from the UN and the Japanese government to test her uncle's new rapid-fire railgun. The Argos team notices that Yuya and Yui are now more cordial towards each other and encourages this. Yui demonstrates the railgun to Yuya and advises him to abandon it if something unfavorable occurs during the test. He is also instructed to destroy it to stop other countries from replicating it, but he assures her that both he and the railgun will return. As he makes his way back to his room, he sees a group of young Soviet pilots surrounding Kriska and Inya. The pilots hated the Russians, such as Kriska and Inya, because they were left behind and forced to battle the Beta. But the Russians were the first to seek safety in Alaska when the Soviet Union lost to Beta. However, Kriska's severe headache prevents her from defending Inya. Yuya comes forward and assaults the pilots who try to rape Inya. The pilots are just about to surround Yuya, but their commanding officer orders them to leave. The following day, Ibrahim informs the Argos, Idar, and Baofeng flight crews where they will conduct their tests during an impending Beta invasion, and also introduces Lieutenant Colonel Latrova of the Jar Battalion. Latrova instructs the UN flight crews not interfere with her work and do their experiments while her battalion is defending them. Now that she is feeling better, but still doesn't seem to remember what happened yesterday, Kriska tortures one of the Jar Battalion pilots who attacked them and told them to stay away from her and Inya or else she will murder them. Yuya is anxious on the day of the test because this will be his first actual fight. It doesn't help that the Jar pilots are making fun of him, but the rest of the Argos crew assures him that they will defend him while he tests the railgun. When Yui discovers there are not enough ground forces guarding the flight crews as the Beta invades the coast, she realizes something is wrong. Unaware that no reinforcements will arrive because the Soviet leadership wants the railgun test to fail even at the expense of Latrova's battalion, Yui requests her Soviet counterpart to send for reinforcements. Yui persuades Latrova to issue the order to fall back so he can fire the railgun after understanding her superior's plan to sacrifice her pilots and warning them they will soon be overtaken. Latrova complies. As everyone retreats, Yuya fires the railgun, decimating the entire Beta invasion force. As everyone rejoices, Yui urges Yuya to head back to base while expressing her happiness that he is safe. Even though the Jar pilots were the ones who were battling, Yuya is welcomed like a hero at the Kamchatka base. Latrova thanks Yuya for saving their lives and offers him some advice as he waits for her second-in-command to fetch her. Yui makes the decision to not use Yuya in the upcoming live battle test because the railgun is still being fixed and his TSF needs maintenance. However, the president of the firm hired to construct Japan's newest TSF insists that Yuya take part in the upcoming test. In an effort to locate her son before her superiors assign the Jar Battalion to their next assignment, Latrova informs her pilots, whom she treats as her children. As the Jar Battalion and UN flight crews conduct another sortie against the Beta, they find it odd that they are battling the leftovers of the last attack. To everyone's surprise, the Beta has another force descending into the Earth that gets close to the Kamchatka base. Because of Beta, the Soviet commander orders all units, with the exception of the Soviet TSFs, to evacuate to a location farther than usual with the goal of employing the Soviet forces to buy time. In light of this, the commander orders everyone in the base to leave, taking nothing with them. The evacuation is essentially a ruse by the Soviet Union to obtain the Type 99, according to Lieutenant Dahl and Yui. Yui runs from Soviet soldiers and intends to detonate the Type 99. The self-destruct code was changed by the Soviets, making it impossible to detonate. Unexpectedly, some Beta has arrived at the base. Yui is imprisoned in the abandoned supply base, and she intends to seduce the Beta into following her to the cannon's core module. The idea of gaining Type 99 is exhilarating to the Soviet command, which is busily blocking all radio signals from the UN command. When Yui is about to be killed by Beta's filthy hands, Yuya and Stella quickly come and save Yui from the Beta infiltration of the hangar. Yui keeps working on her plan to detonate Type 99. The main Beta force shows up at the same time and moves in their direction. Yuya destroys Type 99 with Type 94. He disobeys Yui's order and destroys everything but the core module, making it easy to reassemble. After learning that they are attempting to rescue the gun, the Soviet headquarters instruct bombers to utterly destroy the base. However, the Type 94's arm, which was holding the module, was chewed off during their escape. Because Yui is not protected by a reinforced suit, Yuya, who is holding Yui inside his TSF, is unable to fight. Due to his concern that Stella's TSF has already received significant damage, Yuya transfers Yui to it. Yuya and Stella, after the struggle, finally take off from the base's runway. However, as Yuya's TSF is already too damaged, only Stella was able to take off. When Yuya is left back, he intends to continue fighting till he passes away. When Yuya is on the verge of being killed, the Tsar Battalion comes in time to save him. Bombers approach and begin to blow up the base, but they are quickly destroyed by a sudden influx of laser-class Beta. Lieutenant Latrova instructs her battalion to accompany Yuya to safety as his TSF is unable to fly, while the remainder makes an effort to flank the laser-class Beta. When a mysterious, extremely potent TSF is seen coming at them from behind, Latrova stays back to meet it head-on. But to her dismay, she is intercepted and killed by the enigmatic TSF. The UN troops in Alaska lament Yui's passing, with Yui lamenting the most. After a moment, Yui's TSF miraculously shows up in its damaged state, strolling in the distance. After a brief delay, the XRJ project presents Shiranui II, its most recent design. In spite of eliminating the laser class and the surviving Beta, Vincent informs Yuya that the whole Tsar battalion was wiped out. They were referred to as Soviet Union heroes. To the disgust of Yuya and Yui, a military exercise known as the Blue Flag was held to foster international unity. A celebration for the return of the Argos test flight is being conducted in the meantime. Yui prepares a home-cooked supper for Yuya, inspiring him to recall how his mother prepared it. Yufei of the United Chinese Front shows up out of nowhere and praises Yuya for his modesty while also expressing her romantic desire. The next day, Kriska seeks out Yuya in the hopes that he is aware of Inya's location. She gives him her first smile and lets him know that Inya likes him. They then look for Inya all night long, but all in vain. That evening, Yuya runs across Leo, his former flight companion and partner, who expresses his desire to beat him. After meeting with Yuya once again, Leo declares his intention to put an end to Project XFJ by defeating it with purportedly superior American technology. In a pub, Leo and his partner Sharon run into Vincent. Vincent tries to reassure Leo that Yuya has improved, but Leo interrupts him by noting that he still remembers what Yuya did to him in the past. Idar Flight competes against Slekthok Flight in the morning of Blue Flag drills. The Scarlet Twins accomplish an enormous achievement by destroying the entire flight in 10 minutes, which seems impossible. In the afternoon, the Argos test flight competes against the Baofeng test flight, where the latter prevails due to its superior teamwork. Yuya agrees to the one-on-one match since he knows Sui wants it. The Chinese TSS brute force initially outclasses Yuya, but he uses the Type 94-2's quicker moves to change the course of the battle and prevail. The twins are depicted in another scene as being immersed in a tank as a result of their marginally subpar performance. Kriska in the tank remembers her solitary upbringing, how she met Inya, and their first encounter with Lieutenant Jerry Sandek. The USA's Infinity Flight uses its Raptor against the Baofeng flight as part of the ongoing Blue Flag drills, and the latter is soundly destroyed within 4 minutes. After the fight, Yuya meets the Scarlet Twins and learns that they both have feelings for him. Kriska is curious as to why. He suggests that it might be so because they both possess obstinate, perfectionist personalities, and Yuya agrees. Sui interrupts their conversation, and Yui witnesses everything and flees in resentment. Later that evening, Yuya runs into Yui in a pub and approaches her about taking training in Japanese sword fighting. Yuya attacks Leo. He stops them and demands that he reveal his military background. They are forced to flee when a bar fight breaks out and the MP shows up there. Yuya and his group are testing the F-22 Raptor. By pushing the Raptor to its breaking point, Yuya accidentally kills their squad captain. It is revealed that this is the cause of Leo's animosity against Yuya. Vincent takes everyone to drinks that evening after betting for Argos to win their opening match. Natalie, the bartender, and Yuya had a conversation about his acquaintances. Sui begs Yui to forget about Yuya since she will never understand him while they are on their way to the bar. Sandek tells Kriska and Inya that he has plans for Yuya when they meet with him. The top-ranking officers working on the Prominence Project decide to send the test pilots on a hiking trip into the wilderness in order to calm the escalating rivalries amongst the countries competing in Blue Flag. Argos, Idar, Baofeng, and Infinity come together as they approach their goal and come upon a hot spring. Together, they eat dinner and take pleasure in the spring. While unwinding, Lieutenant Blazer beats up VG and Vincent. Inya and Kriska encounter Yuya while naked in the hot pool, and Sui continues to feud with Yui. Unknown males who are contractors show up to the base dressed as soldiers. They infiltrate, kill a sizable number of military people, and take over a number of TSFs. They also seize all the top officials and stop all communication, which forces Yuya to go back to the base. Yui barely makes it through the assault before she runs into Kriska. Natalie confronts Yuya, Sui, and Teresa and identifies herself as a member of the RLF, announcing their intention to transform the world. When she is about to say anything about the US covert study, one of her own assassinates her for giving away too much. Finding the time, Yuya sets up a distraction, allowing the group to escape. The RLF takes over an underground research facility where betas are being bred. Using the remaining TSF Argos test flight, Kriska and Sui make an attempt to retake the base after being liberated. The RLF has taken complete control of the base in the interim. When Sandik escapes, they fly to the Soviet base for supplies. The RLF TSFs, led by Oslam, intercept the surviving TSF as they try to reassemble in a location. With the rest of Argos severely outnumbered, Yuya offers to take on each of the 24 TSS by himself in order to gain some time. He kills a lot of them, but soon finds himself encircled. Inya steps in just in time to save him. The remainder of them makes their way back, saying they saw and followed Inya. Now when the situation is reversed, Oslam commits a suicide attack. When Miriam, a member of the RLF, learns that her sister has died, she confronts Dahl and begs him to join them. Miriam attempts to assassinate Dahl, but is unsuccessful. The RLF makes its demands public and announces them. They also reveal to the world the location of the US top-secret Beta Research Center, from where they release all of the Beta, as well as the Red Shift, a last-ditch scheme that involves burying hydrogen bombs beneath Alaska to establish a new defense line in the event of a Beta invasion. However, this will result in the murder of all local Soviet inhabitants. Invoking guerrilla tactics, Yuya intends to seize weapons from a Soviet patrol base. The leader of the RLF invasion, Major Christopher, starts his own strategy. At the petrol station, the remaining pilots refuel and replenish supplies. They will make an effort to restore communications so that the US and USSR can see the Beta invasion. As they make their way back to the base, the RLF, led by Christopher, attack them. A chase follows, during which the team tries to stop the Beta. When asked to participate in the Beta onslaught, Major Christopher admits that he is in a legion, a group of people who revere the Beta as gods. The remaining RLF, realizing they were being manipulated, kill themselves to preserve their honor. Sharon and Leo join the conflict. Sandik commands the Scarlet Twins to enter Pravka, a mental state that dramatically improves their piloting abilities in a last-ditch effort. Kriska is curious as to what happened to the twins' bodies as they awaken in a shared unconscious. In an effort to take control of the twins, Christopher ignites an unidentified device as the twins activate their Pravka. The twins become out of control as a result, and instead of taking charge, they trample Christopher. The twins confuse everyone with the enemy when they are heavily hypnotized and go on a rampage. Teresa's TSF is destroyed and Yui is almost victorious. According to Sandik, Yuya is the only person who can stop the twins from destroying everything in their path because of some mysterious reason. He drops his weapon and lets the twins impale him in an effort to return to the twins what everyone else has given to him. The impaling brings the twins back to consciousness. Yuya is only missed by a few centimeters by the sword, and he is shown unharmed. Lieutenant Dahl retakes control of the HQ along with some Soviet special forces. The Master, the enigmatic head of the RLF, admits that the plan has failed and turns his attention to Japan. The rest of the globe is demanding an investigation into the Red Shift now that the invasion has been thwarted. With the possibility of the XFJ project being cancelled, Yui is sent back to Japan. Yui informs Dahl that she will go back to Yukon. Arriving in the US is the Infinity Test. When Yui sees Yui, they exchange parting salutations. Kriska spots Yui as she is leaving and informs her of her romantic emotions for Yuya. Yui responds that they will be rivals and love to win Yuya.